thank you to our sponsor, MBA Growth Partners.
Hello and welcome to Studio 501c3. I'm your host, Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Village. The show features nonprofit organizations designated as 501c3 by the IRS for providing a public benefit, and in most cases, your donations to them are deductible. Nonprofit Village and Montgomery Community Media are partners on Studio 501c3. It's a proud collaboration featuring our county's excellent nonprofit programs and services. And today, our show features the YMCA Youth and Family Services, which offers programs for youth and families, particularly those that are affected by adverse childhood experiences. And to explore some of the programs and services with me today is the Executive Director, Carson Henry. Carson, thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's have some fun with this and make sure that people know a little bit more about what you have to offer. So let's start with YMCA Youth and Family Services. How's that different from just YMCA?
So, and this is the interesting part. So we are, everybody knows the Y as this big mega organization that's like, honestly, some people don't even realize it's a worldwide organization. Okay. The Y is this unique place where every Y is different, and it adapts to the unique needs and I guess opportunities in the communities and where it operates. And so when a lot of people think of the Y, they think of, obviously you think of the song YMCA. You think of like sports camp, maybe summer camp, you maybe think about a place to work out. A lot of people don't think about what we call youth and family services. It's like this social service and outreach branch of the Y. We focus on three main things. Okay. Youth development and outreach for kids that are experiencing systemic barriers.
Okay. And what do you mean by systemic barriers?
I'm talking about disproportionate contact by police or the punitive system because of their skin color or economic disadvantage, obstacles they may face, family members that maybe are working 3 or 4 jobs, right. People who either can't afford to get to the Y or can't afford to pay the membership when they get there. So okay. We do social service in the form of in-home family support. So we actually have case workers that go all around the county and work with families to come up with plans of care. Really, if you think about it, we're doing this one program that's actually preventing families from going into the child welfare system. So wow. We have staff that are, pre the change and everything, they were going into people's homes and working with families on a one-on-one basis to develop a plan to try and keep the family unit together. We also do mental health counseling. A lot of people don't think the Y, they don't think of mental health counseling when they think of the Y, but we are a service provider for linkage to learning, school and community youth services, and we work with schools, the Department of Health and Human Services, a bunch of different places to provide mental health counseling for individuals, families, and communities. Our emphasis is typically on young people in the county. And so it's interesting because people think that's different than the traditional Y, but that's actually the root of what the Y was at the turn of the century in the early 1900s. The body and the summer camp and all that really wasn't part of what the Y was. The Y was a social organization that was really trying to to focus on the mental health and the spiritual more so than maybe even the body.
Okay. All right. So I was going to ask you about engaging the whole family, but you also mentioned all of these other community participants that you work with, the schools and other agencies and departments and mental health professionals. So you're actually engaging a lot of people in the community in order to be able to provide the services. It's not as if you're doing every single thing right in your building or something.
Yeah, actually, so the difference, so that's another big difference for youth and family services. We only really have a small office. Almost everything that we do is out in the community through a partnership we've collaborated with or created or we're doing with some other group. We partner with apartment complexes, we partner with school systems, we partner with churches. Really what we're trying to do is leverage the best practices we see from around the country to bring high quality leading services to Montgomery County and deliver them according to our core values of caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility.
Okay, great. And then using those core values, how are you going out into the community and pretty much determining what the needs are so that you can provide those services? How are you collecting that information back? Is there a formal process that you go through when you know that a new service needs to be provided?
So every program area is different. Sometimes we're responding to proposals that maybe get put out by local governments. Sometimes what we're doing is we're leading or creating community needs assessments in the areas that we traditionally have worked. Sometimes we'll actually be looking at a national trend. Right now, I'm in a conversation about bringing a program that's specifically focused on young men and boys of color to Montgomery County, because it's something that we're looking at and piloting nationwide. And we've been talking about it since as far back as President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative. So it's a variety of different ways. And the beauty of it is the way we define community isn't like any particular scale. We say individual, family, and community. Community can be as small as one neighborhood. It could be as large as the country. And honestly, especially nowadays, what we've seen is community can sometimes mean the world.
That's true. So I'm going to want to talk to you a little bit more about the Young Men of Color program, but you also mentioned that you're taking some best practices from otherwise, and we only have about 30 seconds before the break. And then you're also offering some of your own best practices. So there is this network. You may all be different Ys around the country, around the world, but you still are working together to look at best practices.
Yeah, and that's something that actually really benefited us after the COVID-19 scare happened in the world, because basically we didn't have a whole lot to pull from, but we were able to reach out to our network.
Great. All right. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the YMCA Youth and Family Services and how they create more connections in the community, trust across the country, and more about the programs. You're watching Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media. Please stay with us.
Jimmy can't sing
and Tommy can't dance,
so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww, they walk like a monkey, hop like a bunny. Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants.
One more time.
Jimmy can't sing
and Tommy can't dance,
so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, sing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants, they've got...
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Welcome back to Studio 501c3. I'm Kim Jones, and with me today is Executive Director of the YMCA Youth and Family Services, Carson Henry. Welcome back, Carson.
Thank you.
So before the break, we were talking a little bit, you were mentioning the programs for young men of color. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. We've piloted quite a few programs we've had over the last couple decades. I mean, YFS, youth, that's what we call Youth and Family Service. YFS. It's much easier than saying the whole thing all the way through.
Right.
So we started our types of programs specifically for young men of color as far back as like the early 90s. And the programs have evolved. So, there was an entrepreneur program. There's been a program we called Man to Man, Brother to Brother. They've continued to evolve. Our most recent iteration is called Full Circle Brotherhood. Basically, what we did is we took disconnected youth and we connected them with middle schoolers, and we taught the disconnected youth development practices as kind of a work job preparedness in partnership with our friends over at MMYC, Maryland Multicultural Youth Centers.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we created this brotherhood. We call it Full Circle Brotherhood. And the reason we call it Full Circle is because we're trying to break cycles. As we know, there's some cycles that have been impacting young boys and men of color in our communities for generations. And so we're hoping that infusing this leadership group into the lives of these young men might break some of those cycles and maybe propel our young men to success in a variety of different ways. So that's what we're doing here. We're also having a national conversation and dialogue around taking some other Y models, bringing them to the local community. And so it's really exciting work because what we're doing, there's so much that we can learn so quickly from each other nowadays. The trick is really trying to navigate sustainability in all these programs. What I've seen over my time is that, we get into these models, we do something that's really like innovative and of the time, and then it doesn't take 2 or 3 more years before you're really scrambling to try and find funding and everybody's moved on to the next big thing. So sustaining these programs and our commitment to these young men is really critical. But it's also important to recognize it's not just young men. Although a lot of the focus has been on young men, our young women need us too. And even though a lot of people think of us as the YMCA or the YMCA, we're open for all, and we try to make our programs as inclusive and supportive of all populations that we work with.
Years ago, I sat on the board of the YWCA, and we had programs for men and boys, just like we did for women and girls. So, you kind of can't forget half the population. So, so that's.
It's important to recognize where these organizations started and how they've continued to evolve with the communities. They may keep the name, but they've evolved to be more than what they originally were founded as.
Good. All right. So we've only got about a minute and a half left. I want to kind of shift over to, so these are important programs. You're making an impact, and I think people see that in the community. But you also have some engaging activities that are just plain old fun activities too. So tell us a little bit about a few programs in the last minute that we have.
Sure. We have outdoor adventure programs that we do for young people over the summer to teach them leadership, team building. We do. We have some day camp. Was a product of day camp and residential camp, and I'll tell you what, those were experiences that absolutely changed my life and were pivotal to the success that I've had and building friendships. And for parents and moms, every year we hold a fundraiser event called Prom, which is an absolutely exciting, fun time. I don't think I've ever had more fun at a party raising money than I do at our Prom.
So I saw you recently. I had logged in and
I tell you, and the thing about it is it's called the Prom, but it's not just for moms. We host it for everybody.
Right.
And the host committee is typically made up of moms. And so we try to live our inclusion and try to keep that going. So there's a ton of different ways that people can get involved.
Good.
And we just love it when people take us up on our invitation to come be part of the community.
All right. Well, we're running out of time here. That's all the time we have for questions today, but I want to thank you for being here, Carson. It's really important for people to know about the programs for Youth and Family Services. And to find out more, you can go to the website at yfs.ymcadc.org. Studio 501c3 is your window on nonprofits in Montgomery County. I'm Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Village. Join us next time on Montgomery Community Media for more Studio 501c3.